In the tranquil hamlet of Meadowbrook, cradled between sweeping hillsides and thick woodland, there lived a man named Edward. Edward was a quiet soul, dwelling in a modest cottage on the outskirts of town. His days were simple. He tended his vegetable patch, lost himself in the pages of worn books, and wandered through the countryside on long, contemplative walks. Yet despite the stunning beauty that surrounded him, Edward often felt a hollow ache of loneliness deep within his chest. Edward had lived by himself for many years, ever since his beloved wife had passed away. The silence of his cottage sometimes felt deafening, and the empty chair across from his still brought tears to his eyes. One crisp autumn afternoon, while walking along a narrow forest path, Edward heard a desperate fluttering sound. There, tangled in a thicket of thorny brambles, was a small bird struggling frantically to break free. Its delicate wing was caught, and it chirped in obvious distress. Moved by compassion, Edward carefully parted the thorns and freed the frightened creature, cradling it gently in his weathered hands. He could feel its tiny heart racing against his palm. Back at his cottage, Edward fashioned a cozy nest from soft moss and dried grass, placing it near the window where warm afternoon sunlight poured in. He tended to the bird's injured wing with gentle care, offering it seeds and fresh water. He spoke softly to it, and gradually the bird began to calm. As days melted into weeks, the bird, whom Edward named Rusty, grew stronger under his devoted care. Soon Rusty was hopping around the cottage, perching on Edward's shoulder as he worked in the garden, and nestling beside him as he read by the crackling fireplace in the evenings. With Rusty by his side, Edward found comfort he hadn't known in years. The little bird filled the silence with cheerful songs and brought life back into the cottage that had felt so empty for so long. Together, Edward and Rusty explored the surrounding countryside, their bond deepening with each passing day. They ventured deep into the forest, where Edward would share stories of his younger years and his travels abroad, while Rusty listened intently. Tilting his head as if understanding every word, they discovered meadows blanketed with wildflowers, their laughter and song mingling with the whisper of wind through the grass. Through these adventures, Edward began to appreciate life's simple joys once more. He realized that companionship could arrive in the most unexpected forms, and that even the smallest of creatures could fill the emptiness in one's heart. As the seasons turned, Edward and Rusty encountered other woodland inhabitants during their travels. They met a wise old owl perched high in a gnarled oak tree who shared ancient stories and forgotten wisdom. They befriended a playful squirrel who scampered among the branches, gathering acorns and cheerfully sharing them with both Edward and Rusty, and they encountered a graceful doe grazing in a sun-dappled clearing, her eyes reflecting the peaceful serenity of the forest itself. With each new friendship, Edward's loneliness faded, replaced by a profound sense of belonging and connection to the natural world around him. He realized he was never truly alone, especially with Rusty as his constant companion. Years passed, and Edward and Rusty grew old together, their bond unbreakable. They shared countless more adventures, their friendship deepening with each changing season. And though Edward's cottage remained small and humble, his heart had grown vast and full, for he had found the companionship he had longed for in his faithful friend Rusty. One peaceful evening, as they watched the sun paint the horizon in shades of amber and rose, Edward whispered softly, "Thank you for being my friend." "Rusty, I'm grateful beyond words for the joy you've brought into my life," Rusty chirped gently in response, his bright eyes twinkling with affection and understanding. In that perfect moment, surrounded by the beauty of the countryside they both loved, Edward knew he had found his home, his sanctuary, and his forever friend. And together they continued to live happily, their days filled with simple pleasures and quiet contentment in the heart of Meadowbrook, where their remarkable story had begun.